this is Governor Bobber. Like, good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Good Friday evening, everyone. It is a magical evening, and I just want to share something that, I was like doing battle with a lot of folks today, and this is what makes the Orioles better than everyone else. Because there's only a few folks that had this, but, here we go, Terry Cashman.
The Earl of Baltimore.
I know, see? See, this is back when Baltimore was This is back when Baltimore was a town we could all be proud of.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Dwight, your whole thing.
When was that?
Your whole argument on Facebook with Corey and Phil was kind of funny, though.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, how many songs have been written about the Nats who are basically the hapless Expos? I put the Orioles records up against the Nats records any day of the week. Because how many pennants do the Expos have? Oh, none. How many pennants has the?
No, in defense of the old Expos, they were the strike.
1994.
They were in the lead when the season ended. Who knows what could have happened?
Yes, 1994. But it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, they don't have a. I mean, they're a team from the last 50 years, whereas the Orioles have been around a lot longer.
True, I mean, they've been around since '69. They were an expansion team. It's like it'd be like it's like the Ravens claiming Johnny Unitas and the Colts records, But it's been it's been a busy week. Orioles won a 10-game winning streak. Pray for the Orioles tonight. They're playing the Devil Rays, Tampa Bay Rays. Pray for them. But they do have better. The Orioles have a better pitcher on the mound tonight, though. So you never know. Magic can happen.
And I think the Orioles have got the because their record was so bad last year. I think they have the top pick in the draft again this year. So they'll get a chance to get another top prospect, for this year before they drop off in the draft next year. I mean, the Orioles have had an amazing season. You got to give them credit. The manager has done a good job. I mean, this is a team where Peter Angelos was basically not spending money on, right? So you have managed to. With this group of players, they managed to kind of get it together, and Adley Rushman. I mean, they've got some Trey Mancini. I mean, all these guys, Cedric Mullins. It's an interesting team to watch. The problem is that you now have the unusual thing rarely ever happens where you have all 5 teams in the division above 500. Granted, the Orioles are only 1 game above 500, but they're all above.
And the Orioles, if they were in any other division except maybe the NL West, they'd be in second or third place.
Well, I mean, if they were in another division, yeah, I mean, the AL West is, neither the Central or the West are that good. Overall,
AL Central, yeah.
So they would probably stand a better chance, because the problem for the Orioles is that they're still going to have about 70 games to play or thereabouts. And they still have to play the Rays, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Blue Jays.
They've had the Red Sox number this year, though. They've actually been
throughout
pretty
the rest
good
of the year. But it's a tough pace to keep up when you've got teams that are that good in your own division, because they play, I think, they usually play everybody about 19 times, I think, or thereabouts. So that they've got more than half their games are played against their division opponents. But the Orioles are not the doormat. I mean, they're not the guys that you come in and beat up on anymore. You better play. You better
Hey, that's
play.
the Nationals.
So, well, this is the thing. Okay, I mean, we've got two teams. I'm a Nationals guy, but I'm not the rah Nationals. Just like I'm not the super rah this guy before. I mean, they're the hometown teams for me, and I'm going to support them. I can never
Remember,
get more thing, but the Nationals, I really don't know where the Nationals are going because they're they've got very few players that are worth anything, and their drafting has been horrible.
yeah.
You look down the line, except for Juan Soto, I expect that they probably can trade off Nelson Cruz and Josh Bell by the trade deadline at the end of the month. Uh, they're really bare. They really don't have much, and they can't get much for anybody at this point. And Soto's the franchise guy, but he's only got about another year or so on his contract. So I don't know if the new ownership, whenever they actually sell the team, will pony up the money because that's usually been under the learners. The Nationals generally don't pay those mega contracts. I mean, they paid
Mm-hmm.
Scherzer like $210 million for 7 years, and they paid Jason Worth $126 million for 7 years. But those are like the biggest contracts. They let Harper
And
go. They
here's the
let
thing.
Brown go.
Yeah. And you think Peter Angelos can spend more. He can actually go take his checkbook out and start, like the Phillies. The Phillies, spent a lot of money and they basically did very well. They have a record worse than the Orioles. What does that tell you? But Orioles are still a very profitable team. If you look at the numbers, the Orioles are still selling tickets. They're still selling their merchandise. As Grand Negazek would say, profit is everything. And the Orioles, yeah, they're not that good. They're the doormat of the AL East. They're like the old St. Louis Cardinals in the NFC East. Where you'd have all these teams that are like 10 wins. And the Cardinals with 1 win or 2 wins. And wow, how times have changed. Now the Cardinals are actually pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the thing here, it's just that you're right about the profitability of the franchise. It's just that you don't have to sell a lot of tickets to be profitable in today's world and sports because
Yep.
it's between merchandising, but more importantly, television rights, the broadcast rights, the fees that they get as their share, they're huge. And the Orioles have kept the payroll down, so low payroll. You get some ticket revenue sales and some other things like that, but you get in on the broadcast rights, and you actually make money. At least,
Yeah.
at least with the Orioles, they're actually a decent all around team. Their pitching is much improved, and the rest of the players are up and coming and doing a good job holding the team together. So they're far better than a lot of other teams in the American League, but they're in a very tough division. Um, you know, they're what 7 wins away from matching last year's win total, and they're like 70
Yeah.
games to go.
It's
So
this is truly a magical year.
I'm saying, look, even if say the Orioles really tank the second half and wind up, and they're 40. What is it? 45-44. So that's 89. They've got 73 games to go. Say they only win 30 more games. The rest of the season, 75 wins. Is still a 23 game improvement. That's huge. Anything,
Yep.
anything really to me, anything above 75 wins is really amazing. To me also would say that Brandon Hyde deserves to be one of the top 3 managers in the American League when they vote for Manager of the Year.
Or the Manager of the Year, if you ask me.
He's not going to win Manager of the Year unless the team gets into the playoffs, which is going to be a real tough road. Not impossible.
I tell you, but as bad as the Central and the West are doing, I can see them getting a playoff berth. They just have to, keep at it.
Well, you got to remember. Each of the divisions will send the top team. and then there's then there's some more teams below that.
There we have our guy, the
But
Grim
with
Reaper.
I mean the Red Sox, the Rays, or the Blue Jays, two of those three teams could easily make it in there, and basically
Yeah.
start punching off a number of spots. So it'll be hard. It'll be hard for them to get there. I mean, they will have to maintain this pace and a lot better to get there. So is that possible? Yeah. Is it probable? I say no. It's
But see, I don't think the Orioles have peaked yet, frankly.
oh, I
You
think
know,
that the second half is going to be a lot tougher for them. What's going to happen though too is that they're going to wind up. Trade deadline comes up. They're going to wind up probably sitting tight. They're not going to sell. They're not going to really make many moves buying. They don't really. Angelos probably really won't see it as a good play to
mhm.
buy. But in the meantime, the ones that are the top contenders are going to be looking to scoop up some extra players for the second half, and I think those guys will start creating some distance. Those other teams are going to try to fix the holes they've got and create more space between what they've got there. So I think the Orioles are going to lag, and they will drop off. But boy, they get anywhere close to 500. If they win 45% of their games, that's a major improvement. You
Oh
win.
yeah, I mean, look, I mean, where they are today, I mean, they could lose every single game, and I'd be happy with with the season this year. They could lose every single game here forward, and uh, and I'd be happy with my Orioles. Because this is a major. This is not. I mean, this is a team that's owned by a cheapskate, lefty, who likes to sue RJR, and that's how he made his money the old-fashioned way, suing big tobacco. Uh, I think if the fact that the Orioles, I mean, I tell you, if they even win, say, 10% of the games that are ahead of them, that's great. That is great improvements.
Well,
It
let's see
shows their,
if they win 10% of the remaining games, they'll match last year.
yeah.
For a record.
And that's it's a rebuilding year for them, and they're actually and here's the Orioles are getting better every time you see the Orioles. They get better and better and better. I think the teams like the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Rays have pretty much peaked. They're already there's nowhere higher for them to go. It's only going down from there, really, from where they are.
Well, we shall see. Those are teams that have got at least the Rays don't spend a lot of money, but the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, and the Yankees will spend money. The Yankees are a big spending team. That's why they have such a powerhouse team. But we'll have to wait and see because the thing about baseball, it's a long season, 162 games. A lot of things can happen, and teams can fade very fast from the first half to the second half. There's no guarantee the Yankees hold on, but they've got a big enough lead. You look at the NL where a month or so ago the Mets were like 10 games ahead of the Braves, and now that's about a 2.5 game lead. It's going to be a horse race. You mentioned Philadelphia. What the Phillies problem was that they knew this was going to be a problem. Shaky pitching. They have a lot of good hitters, but those hitters are hitters. Most of those hitters do not know how to field, and so they commit tons of errors, or they just don't know how to do things, and so they give up a lot of runs because their pitching is also unstable. So yeah, the Phillies haven't structured their team correctly yet.
And look at the Phillies. The Phillies payroll is a lot higher than what we pay.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're the Phillies and you've got to play the Braves and the Mets the way those teams are stacked right now, you've got a problem. I mean, the Marlins are an okay team. The Nats are a terrible team. You can beat up on the Nats because the Nats are just horrible. But when if you've got to
30 games. 30
you got
games, Nats
you
fans.
got to face Max Scherzer and Jacob DeGrom and these guys, or even for Braves, uh, the guys that they've got, Max Fried and company. Those guys are dangerous. Those are tough teams. So it'll be an interesting thing. And
But I think this is the Dodgers' year, frankly. The Dodgers will go all the way, I think, at the end of the day.
The Dodgers could. I love the Dodgers. I've been a fan of the Dodgers since I was a kid. I guess it's only because my cousin was a Dodgers fan when he lived in California, and So I've been a Dodgers fan for 50 years or so.
And Terry Cashman did a song about the Dodgers too.
So they have Dodgers obviously have a rich history, but the National League is not going to be an easy road to hoe for anybody. I mean, the Mets are good, the Braves are good, the Dodgers are good. So and the Padres are good. So I mean, there's a lot. Any of those teams could possibly could possibly go to the World Series in the fall. So we'll have, like I said, there's about 73 more games left for the Orioles. 70, depending upon the team, some teams have played a few more games, but another 70 games is a long slog. But that's what I love about baseball. Is just that you will not generally know who's going to the playoffs and things like that until near the last day or two of the season in many cases. So makes sports great.
Very true. Yeah. So
All right.
Jeff, were you always an Orioles fan growing up, or were you a Yankees fan? There are a lot of those Yankees fans around.
Yeah, honestly, other than football, my family didn't really watch, many sports things. So I would say, growing up, I watched the Redskins, but, even when I was in Michigan, I mean, I went to a couple Tigers games, but,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just like, I don't know, for some reason baseball is
Wow,
just never been one
Tigers.
of those things. Yeah, I mean, they got their own stadium, it's a nice one, but, yeah, I don't know. Baseball for me has just never been one of those sports that I really got into.
Is it like golf to you? Like I had a friend of mine. I
It's
didn't
a little
remember
bit better than
Chris.
golf.
I don't remember Chris Van. Chris Van used to always
Mhm.
refer to baseball as golf for dumb people.
Well, the good, and I've been to a couple games. So the good baseball games, have a lot of side entertainment too. So they have, the mascots doing stuff. They got, other things going on besides just the game too, because it really does. I mean, I say it's slow. It just takes, several hours for the game to complete. And it's just not, really high paced. Like even, I mean, there may be a couple of power plays that occur when you get a, when bases loaded and you get a, home run or something. But generally speaking, um, I don't know. Hockey has been kind of more of a game that I've kind of liked because it tends to be more fast paced.
Fast
I've
paced, yeah.
literally cut.
I like hockey. Yeah.
I've literally, yeah, I was gonna say I've literally cut pucks out of the air. So I just went to the Flint Generals game before and you know caught a puck flying at me. So never caught a
Yeah.
fly ball though.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about. I mean that's what baseball, Major League Baseball is trying to. The baseball's trying to figure out a way to make the game more appealing to this younger generation who has a short
Hmm.
attention span, right? I mean I've been to Major League and minor league baseball games. I love the minor league games because they're so much more entertaining, and it kind of takes your mind off the fact that the game is going to take 2.5 hours plus in general to play, right? You're going to be there for an entire night. But I don't know if you ever heard of this team. It's a team called the Savannah Bananas, and
Yeah, we've talked about them. Yeah.
right. So I mean, one of the things about the Savannah Bananas, besides the fact they sell at every game, and they've got this ridiculous long waiting list to get tickets, is that one of the rules for Savannah Bananas is that it's a 2-hour time limit on the game.
Oh wow.
And they have a lot of antics, obviously, and things like that. But the guy who owns the team is quite, if you can follow him, Jesse Cole on LinkedIn. He's quite the guy and quite entertaining. His wife, he posted a video or some pictures the other day of
Yeah,
his
this is
wife
them right here.
as the groundskeeper getting down in the grass because their field is a terrible field, and so they're trying to figure out what to do. I mean, it's just they don't have a lot of money, but they make it entertaining as heck. And I that's where you can get people to love the game a little bit more. But I keep wondering whether or not you look at baseball versus hockey, football, and basketball. They're like the big major sports. All the other sports are timed events, right? They're quarters or halves or whatever. You play to that. The time limit is it. Baseball, it's innings, and whoever comes out the top at the end of the innings, and if you can't get it done in 9 innings, then you got to go to 10, 11, 12, whatever, right? So, I mean, they tried to solve that by putting the runner on second base in the 10th inning, but that doesn't always solve the problem. So I'm thinking, like, would it be horrible if you actually
Look
had
at
a
this.
max time
JJ
limit of 3
Walker is
hours
going to
in the
be at the
game,
Bay
and
Sox.
everybody knew that they would be home in 3 hours?
Well,
Hey, Don, check this out tonight.
I haven't been to a Bay Sox game since my kids were little, but I love the Bay Sox.
Yeah, and it's funny. They got on the 16th, which is Saturday. They've got it looks like Star Wars Day, and they got fireworks. And then
They do a lot
Sunday is
of
Princess.
fireworks in minor league games, which is great. It's great entertainment. It's all very family friendly. Because I mean, if you've been to the Bay Sox Stadium, I mean, I have
It's a nice
like
stadium.
it's been a long time. I mean, I think they used to have like a carousel. They had a bunch of things for the kids to play on, and they just do things so it becomes very family friendly and affordable. So it's that's a good thing. I mean, this is where the problem with pro sports is just that it's really expensive to go to things.
It's kind of like you guys know we just had Prime Days a couple days ago, and one of the things I have noticed is it has become overly. One, I don't think there's anything good this year at Prime Days. Frankly, I think there's a lot of junk, and as our old friend Brian Neiman put it, he said it best with this meme. And Prime Day has become too commercialized, and everyone has forgotten the true meaning of the holiday. I just had to share that. That's hilarious.
It figures.
But there was a lot of other stuff happening this year. By the way, this is what our friend Frank Gorsuch, he tweeted this out. Whoops. There you go. We can see that, Even the Riddler's no fool.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, how many of us think that inflation is really 9%, right? I mean, the producer prices were 11. I mean, so I'm going to play around with this. I mean, the Wall Street Journal apparently has launched a inflation tracker where they're going to be tracking all these figures, and you can see the past month's figures from the government reports. But apparently, there's a part of it where you can actually put in like things that you normally buy, and then you can get your own personal inflation tracker.
I mean, look at this. Butter is up 26%, 26.3. Eggs are up 33.1%. Gas is up a whopping 59.9%. We have new cars are up 11.4%. And then we have airline fares. They're crazy at 34.1%. If you want to get a good rate, you got to fly out at 6 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning to get a good price, or fly back late at night. No more good deals, if you want to fly middle of the day.
I mean, I'm gonna be on a plane in early August when I got to fly back from Evansville, Indiana, after my daughter has her baby and everything like that. But I'm not, it's a small airport, but I'm not looking forward to that day because I mean it's a 5:37 a.m. flight and it goes to Charlotte and then comes back into DCA. Where am I going to? I can't remember if my wife's coming into DCA or Baltimore at this point anymore. But the thing is that even though I'm pretty sure the flight will take off in Evansville, I'm not sure if my connection will be there. Even for flights like that, I'm thinking like travel is such a nightmare. It's better in the U.S. than it is overseas, but our travel, going by air is now a huge crapshoot. You just do not know whether or not the flight you book is the flight you will actually get on and when you will actually get to your destination anymore. And there's no way I'm going international until they figure this out.
Yeah, it's like, and I tell you, this when things were getting, we were getting used to the TSA and all the stuff with the flying that was going on, and then, you had TSA following you and all that stuff. You had the scanners, and flying was just getting back to normal. And now we have all of this nonsense, where now, did you hear Pete Buttigieg and company want to have pilots retire. They don't want any older pilots. It's like, you already have a pilot shortage as is. What are you going to do? What are we going to do? Have those? Are we going to genetically engineer the pterodactyl? We can have the Flintstones flights. Where we ride on top of a bird to get to point A to point B. I mean, it's ridiculous. We haven't. Not. What the projections were 8.8 for the inflation numbers to be this week. Nobody thought it'd be over 9. 8.9 was what the high number was. 8.8, not a whopping 9.1. And I tell you, July numbers probably will stay the same or get a little higher because I don't see any end in sight right now, frankly. I think what's going to happen when the Saudis tell Joe that, hey, we're not going to pump any more oil, and what's going to happen then is we're going to see that, lo and behold, we can't, pump, we're going to see the price of gas going back up. We're selling our strategic petroleum reserves to a Chinese company that has ties to Hunter Biden. Imagine if George W. Bush was in the White House. And I think I posted earlier this week, back when President Bush was in the White House, the price of gas had spiked to a whopping $2, and I don't want to misquote myself. But it's one of those. It was a high gas. It was relatively, respectively, it was high. But I tell you, today it's a bargain. It was. This is what the price of gas was in 2000. This was taken. I think this was in 2006, and this is the price of gas in 2006. $2.19. And the liberals were running around screaming, Halliburton, Halliburton. You have 2 oil men in the White House. That's why this is all happening. Where have they all gone? Where have they all gone, Tom? And have you ever seen any of the liberals protesting gas stations with high prices around $2.19?
This is an old sign because it says Jerry's on there.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's Jerry's near where Jeff lives. It's now called Jeffrey's.
True.
Yeah. So I do want to try that pizza place out.
Yeah, I know, we know because my wife and I we've got a road trip to Evansville coming up on the 27th, and I look back, and so last October when we went out there for the trip, depending upon where we were, when we filled up from places in West Virginia to Kentucky, the gas ran from $2.81 to like $2.99. We're going to be paying a lot more this, even though the gas price is falling lately because of, just sluggish demand. We're going to be paying a lot more for our gas. But you look at these inflation numbers. One of the funny things, once again, how out of touch is the Biden administration on this? You're talking about you don't see this, these figures really going down by much. Biden administration is trying to find ways of saying, oh yeah, no, it's going to get better, and so core inflation went to like 5.9% from like 6%, right? And so how they defend these numbers? They said, oh look, core inflation was below 6%. This is great. It ticked down 0.1%. This is how bad things are in administration.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You ask the average American, I was just talking to somebody earlier today, they're spending over $450 a week for a family of 4 in groceries, while just 2 years ago they were spending about $250. That is, that's an insane jump going from $250 to $450. That's a lot of money. And a lot of these families, working families, can't really afford to eat that cost, except the folks at Costco's who seem to be eating the costs. Their pizzas are still the same price as are their shakes, or soft serve ice cream, whatever you want to call that stuff they give you there. It's really good. And Costco's Pizza, one of my best pizza places around, by the way. Everyone should try it. But good news is my travels to Florida. I'm going to be riding. I'm going to be driving through states where the average price is $431 to $408 after I pass Virginia. I know, isn't it a shame we think $431 is a bargain for
Yeah, I
gas?
mean, our whole mindset has to change when we see prices in the 430s or what less, and we're saying like, oh, that's a good deal. But where we were 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago, I mean,
2006,
it's
when
just
the
it's just
evil Bushes were running everything.
it's terrible. It's terrible on what it does to the people on the lower end of the on the earning scale. They're getting pushed. I mean, between the gas prices and the food prices, energy price,
Yeah,
utilities, it's really really hard for these people to afford these things. I mean, the Wall Street Journal ran an article the other day about you know if you buy chicken has gone up, has shot up incredibly, and so people are now taking to buying an entire chicken and basically taking it apart themselves and learning how to take it apart themselves in an effort to save money. Doesn't say that's a lot of time you got to spend to actually take a chicken apart, right? To separate everything out. But people are willing to try that because it's like $2 a pound versus like $4 a pound. They think they're going to save, but I think some people were going to give up because it's a messy affair and not that easy.
I did. It's like think how more expensive Thanksgiving dinner is going to be this November. They all talk.
How about even look? We just went through July 4th. What was it last year? Didn't the Biden administration say it was going to cost us 16 cents less? In 2021. This year wasn't enough by like $8 or $10 or something like that, and they were
Yeah,
silent.
yeah. I mean, come on, aren't you going to jump up and down and scream how it's now $10 more? I mean, it's crazy. It's like students' meal plans are going up too. Like the meal plans you paid last year for when your kids were in school have gone up almost, in some cases, up 20% from last year. Which is insane. That it's like and a lot of these kids are like not even eating on campus. They'd rather eat off campus because the food's probably better anyways. But I mean, and this is really hitting people hard. And I think Joe Biden is frankly out of touch, as pretty much every Democrat is. I mean, when I go to these candidate forums, you got people like Tom Hucker who voted for tying the gas tax with the indexed inflation numbers. Is the reason we're paying 43 cents more in gas in Maryland with the gas tax. People like him, all they're talking about is spending more money, more money, more money. I joked and said, what's your bag of candy to throw out to the audience, the way you want to spend money? I go, sometimes you got to be the adult in the room and say, hey, we can't afford this. Like they talk about free bus services, free this, free that. Look, it's not free. Somebody's going to be paying for it. Either it's basically taxpayers like you and I, Don, Jeff, we're paying for those free buses, the free rides, the free cell phones, Somebody has to pay for it. Just because they're not paying for it doesn't mean it's free is not free.
Yeah, I mean we have the metro system in the area, and the taxpayers of Maryland, D.C., and Virginia have subsidized that ever since it began. And now the ridership, it cratered because of the pandemic, and people aren't going back to work at the office. The ridership has not really gotten back to those levels on any of those services. So they've been coming up with things about lowering the cost of monthly passes, having some other discounts, stuff like that, to lure back riders. But those riders will now be riding on even more subsidized rides, right? I mean, whatever the shortfall is, you, me, Jeff, we're all going to be pitching in to cover that.
And they're using 30-year train cars right now because I don't understand why these 7000 series wheels are falling off or separating or whatever. Like, did they not do any quality assurances before they bought these? Why are they not sending them back to the manufacturer saying, hey, this is a defect. You need to fix it?
I do, I mean, I agree. I have wondered about the procurement process for Metro for a long time because it's not just these 7,000 cars. I mean, they have had trouble with a lot of the things that they have bought over the years. They're rail cars. They've run into all kinds of problems, warranty issues, defects in the companies that they bought it from. I think the fare card machines had some problems when they were going, and the company that made them went bust or something. So you begin to wonder about who's procuring these things and how much vetting really, right, Dwight, has been done on this, because it
Yeah.
seems that Metro has been a comedy of errors with a lot of the stuff that they put out there for us.
Very true. It's really, honestly, it really is criminal what they're doing. These people. I mean, Metro really needs some serious and real oversight. Not this. They do have an oversight board, I believe, but they need someone that does real oversight. I mean, here's the thing. Metro is not safe anymore. I know people that used to take Metro. I know people that have moved closer to a Metro station so they wouldn't have to drive to the Metro station. They can walk to the station, are not taking the Metro anymore because they just don't feel safe on Metro anymore. Metro cannot guarantee the safety of the riders today. There are times when, I mean, back in the days, in the old days, I mean, I used to take the train to work and I'd fall asleep and I'd never be worried that I'd have something stolen from me. I had a nice long ride all the way to Van Ness from Silver Spring. And I'd take a nap and I'd wake up right around Van Ness or sometimes after Van Ness or before Van Ness. But anyways, I was able to take, it was a nice long ride. I could take a nap. It was great. But the point is, I didn't feel any danger. I didn't feel someone was going to steal my wallet or anything like that. But today, no way would I take the train because I think there's a good chance of being mugged, robbed, or whatever on one of the trains. And we need, I think Metro needs to do something about security. I mean, Metro already said they're not. If you're jumping the turnstiles, they're not going to prosecute you. So we're subsidizing the gate jumpers too, frankly, at this point. And it's sad. It is sad.
Maybe I should apply to be the next general manager or something like that. I could use a job, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yes.
Collect a salary for a year and then get fired and then be fine.
Yeah, you get the what do you call a lot of this is interesting, Don. Never mind. I hit the wrong URL. But here's the question. It's like, how many of our viewers are you? Do you? I mean, Don, you used to use the Metro religiously.
Yeah, I used
Do
to
you
use
feel
it quite a bit.
safe?
Yeah.
I mean,
the old actually the funny thing about it, I think, really is that, in its heyday, I mean, before COVID, the crowded trains or the busyness of the trains actually kind of made it a little bit safer in a lot of ways. So much was hustle bustle going on there. I do think that, if you have fewer people riding the train, I mean, that is potentially an opportunity for other things to happen. People probably don't feel as safe on these systems as they did before. And I think people are a lot more leery about other people in general now. It's just, we've seen a lot of crazy behavior, really as the pandemic has wound down. Though I did see a story in, I guess, what was it, for LA? I mean, that BA.5 variant of COVID or whatever, they're actually maybe getting close to reimposing a mask mandate this month.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just when you thought you could throw the masks away, it's kind of like all the shark attacks. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, and then Jaws 2 shows up.
Every time I see something like that come out of California, I keep thinking about it. It's like, when is the other shoe going to drop in Montgomery County? Because we live in such a weird area that it wouldn't take much for the county executive.
Have you noticed? I've seen more people. Have you noticed more people wearing masks now? Because there was a time when I saw people going back not wearing masks, but I was over at the Costco's a couple of days ago. I noticed more people wearing masks inside the store. Yeah.
Well, usually every time I go to Costco these days, it's 95% of the people wearing masks are Asians. And if you actually came from Asia, you're used to wearing a mask anyway. So it's kind of like, this for them is a good excuse to go back to the behavior they had in their home country when it was normal. And it's fine. It's the people wearing masks outside that always make me just shake my head. It's like, you're standing outside. What is the problem here?
Yeah. So Ukraine as
142 days. Unbelievable.
I know, it's like And it's like old General McClellan, said, "Hey, Vlad will be done in a couple of hours. We'll dispense with Ukraine," and here we are. And there's actually a funny episode of Deep Space Nine during the Dominion War, where the founder, they're about to, the Federation's about to take back Deep Space Nine, and the founder goes, "Looks like this war is going to take a little longer than we all thought, huh?" And as they beam off the station. I think that's Vladimir's Putin's sentiments about now. Hey, this war's taking a little bit longer than we all thought it would.
Barring any Western intervention in the sense of actually doing something besides providing materiel to to Ukraine, I mean, Russia has the upper hand because they have the armaments, they have the troop numbers that need, and they're going after civilian targets to try to basically to get Ukraine to buckle.
With all this, you'd think they would have buckled by now.
Yeah, I give Ukrainians credit for their resolve, but it gets, you start bombing these apartment buildings and malls and stuff like that. It sooner or later the resolve can only go so far.
But here's the thing: let's go back to another war. When the Nazis were bombing Berlin, Coventry relentlessly, did that break the will of the English people? I mean, I don't think it did. I think it stiffened their backs, and it's like this is not going to break the will of the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians will fight them. They'll fight them in the cities. They'll fight them in the fields. They'll fight them. To the last man. Frankly, I don't see. I see this is going to be a protracted war, and it's going to become like Napoleon's War in Spain, a bleeding ulcer for Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, if
that's just my 2 cents.
I mean, if Putin winds up gaining control of, taking control of Ukraine, I mean, so what does he? He gets resources and whatever out of that, but he has more than lost the public relations and image battle on this, because going after civilians, there are very few, if any, people in the world that support this methodology, this kind of behavior, and to me, I mean, I think he's totally a pariah on the international stage, and that this he may win that battle, but he may lose the war in the end. That he loses whatever support he has, and will eventually be forced out somehow, because somebody's finally going to do something, I think. But they've got to continue to put an economic squeeze on them, and they haven't really been very effective on squeezing Russia economically enough to really make them hurt on this. So this is why we're seeing this thing slog on, and there doesn't look like there's any immediate end in sight. Because I mean, at 142 days, so we're almost at the 5-month mark now. So that's amazing as to where we are at this point. So,
and I think it's and then tying it all together, you got Joe Biden blaming Russia still. It's like find a new book, Joe. Or as he would say, man.
I don't even think the American people anymore, by and large, a majority of them are buying the whole Putin inflation excuse anymore, right? I mean, it's just gone. I mean, things are already rising before Putin invaded Ukraine. They've gotten worse, but not much has changed lately in the whole Russia-Ukraine situation in terms of supplies, at least for us. I mean, we still have the same problems we did pre-war. So there are other issues beyond the Ukraine-Russia situation, and I think people are waking up to that. They were willing to buy that at the beginning, but now they're not willing to. And that the polling for Biden, only gets worse. I mean, New York Times poll shows him at 33% approval rating. I don't know if you saw that clip. I mean, Biden literally got upset with the reporter asking him about the poll, showing his low support level, and he calls the guy out and says, "Hey, Jack, it's like 92% of the Democrats said that they would vote for me, if I ran again." But
92%.
But he did the same thing. His press secretary. That seems to be their talking point. But that was the same thing his terrible press secretary did when asked by CNN about that same poll, and she quoted that same figure. But that figure is not. It's not 92% of the people will support Biden if he runs again. In a general sense, it was 92% of the Democrats polled would vote for him if he ran against Trump. If it's a Trump Biden choice, it's Biden for the Democrats by a large majority. But his disapproval rating is over 60%. His approval ratings at 33%. I mean, he's worse than Donald Trump. I mean, he's hitting all historic lows.
He's less popular than George W. Bush was.
Democrats don't want him to run again in 2024. This is an administration that is in deep trouble. They've got a 2022 midterm coming up here in less than 4 months, and it doesn't look good. And you had over 1 million people switch their party registration from Democrat to Republican, this past year. So, things are not going well for the Democrats at all. How do you bring a Joe Biden on the campaign trail for most of your candidates? At this point, how do you, the guy who people hold responsible for high gas prices and inflation at this point, how do you go out there and say, how does Joe go and endorse a candidate that actually helps the candidate at this point in time?
I mean, how many candidates are jumping up and down to have them come out and campaign for them that aren't in Maryland?
Yeah, I mean, they're just the pockets of the country where where it's D plus 20 or something like that, or where it's going to be an easy win for the Democrats. That's a relatively safe bet, but I mean, if you're already ahead by a lot, you don't even need Biden. So if you don't bring Biden in, then you don't remind the people about the problems we have overall, and maybe you focus on local issues to try to take the pressure off the fact that the Democrats they're just wallowing. They don't know really what they're doing at this point. I'm still concerned about the Senate, that the Republicans look like they're going to put up some subpar candidates in a time when they need better candidates, but it's not like the Republicans haven't thrown up terrible candidates before. So
yeah, and here's the thing: it's like Tom Perez will obviously have him out, in Maryland, if what's his name wins the primary. I think if when Kelly Schultz wins, he does not want Joe Biden anywhere near Maryland at that point. Because, Montgomery County, PG County, Baltimore City, Joe Biden is really popular. But as you leave the population centers, Joe Biden, people have to pay $4 plus for gas. I don't know why people think $5 is the magic number. I think $4 is a little high. I think if he can't get gas below $3 by November, I don't see any chance they get to keep the Senate. And they're just going to, for every penny the price of gas is over $3, they're going to lose seats for every penny, and then some.
You can't go into November with inflation at 9%.
Or 10. I think it's going to be around 10, 11 by November.
I think I don't know. I think we're going to see some improvement because the Federal Reserve, their interest rate hikes, there'll be another one coming, will cool a lot of the economy. And those interest rate hikes are already, they're slowing down home sales, right? I've got my neighbor across the street has put her home up for sale. It's been on the market for 2 weeks. There's no action going on there. And I'm sure it's really not because the price is too high, because other homes are sold in the neighborhood for that price that are smaller. But I think with interest rates as high as they are now, that is cooling it. The Fed bumps interest rates by another 3/4 to a point this next meeting. That's going to that jumps that pushes mortgage rates up. That's going to make it really, really hard for people to afford a house in my neighborhood. And that'll those kinds of things. It cools the demand. We're seeing what happens with high gas prices. It had cool demand for gas, and so gas has been dropping. Where that floor is now, I don't think we know. But I was thinking today about you have those MMDA, money market demand deposit accounts, that where you get where the banks have these accounts they offer where they pay a above market rate on the interest, what your normal bank would pay, and it's up to I think like 1.2% or higher. Okay, so great. You can earn 1.2% on your money, maybe even 1.5% on your money, but inflation is at 8 or 9% or whatever. So you're losing a lot of money. I mean, interest on those accounts were like 0.5% when inflation was like 3%. Yeah, you were losing ground on your cash, but you weren't losing as much ground as you are now.
No, this is, here's the thing. This really hurts people who save money. The grasshoppers actually, the ants of the world are in trouble. The grasshoppers are, they don't care. They don't have any savings. They don't even really worry about, Uh, and it's a shame. This is basically the Democrats' war on savers and families. What is the numbers? $3,400 for single income households. You've lost $3,400. It's $6,800 if you're a dual income household. I mean, that's a lot. $3,400 is a lot of money to lose. You've lost a lot of buying power. I mean, bags of M&M, which used to be $1 something, are now $3. The bag of peanut M&Ms, that's what's happened.
So Jeff, do you see this? The inflation factor for Dwight is all based on the bag of M&Ms.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say this is an area I can jump in a little bit. So yeah, first of all, I think that the Fed's increasing the.
Yeah, I got my props ready to see. This is a family size bag. This is not a family size bag, frankly. It is 7.75 ounces, and they don't have the price tag. They used to have the price tag. So this is like probably $3.99 for 7.5 ounces. I could probably buy potatoes and make my own potato chips and be cheaper.
All right, Jeff, what were you saying, Jeff?
Yeah. So anyway, I was saying that the Fed's increasing the interest rates is going to put a cooling effect on the houses, but it's going to be a long time before we see the natural price of houses, catch up to where they kind of artificially were because of COVID. So they're still above what I would consider to be market value. So they're still forward lagging. Well, they're still preceding the market as far as the value. So there's still a gap between the people who can afford houses and those who can't. I mean, we've talked before about the 130 income standard, which nowadays is almost an unachievable standard. With the the demand for gas obviously does drive gas prices. I mean, that's how it's always been. But the last time we had a big problem with gas prices, if you recall, I mean, the $4 mark was the mark that people were using as the threshold for paying. And we kind of, as the U.S., kind of threatened to do our own, oil drilling at that point. And so we had some leverage. And I think OPEC at that point said, okay, well, we'll change the value with the cost of the barrels of oil, and so it decreased the cost of gas. So right now we don't have any leverage. I mean, I don't know, honestly. I've not done my own independent research. I don't know how much Russia has actually affected the global oil market. I know it has to some degree, but ultimately, I mean, we're still major OPEC buyers, and we don't have any alternative plans. It's like going to a car dealership and saying that well, I'll go someplace else when it's the only car dealership in the area. It's like they know they got you. You can't go anywhere else. So at that point, you may try to change your habits a little bit, but again, that's a very slow effect, and it's not going to change the trucking industry. It's not going to change the airlines. You mentioned about airline prices. Last time we had a gas price hike, the airline said, okay, what was us? We can't afford the gas. We're going to have to increase our ticket sales. They never went down after that. They just kept them up, and now they're increasing them again. So, I'm not saying that, we shouldn't have some, metric of gas as far as these costs, but generally speaking, I mean, the corporations typically make out pretty well. It's the individuals who don't. It's the people that have to pay for these things that are suffering. And we talked about trucking. A lot of the truckers are owner operators where they're paying for their own maintenance. They're paying for the gas. They get paid by the job. They don't get paid by the company for if gas prices increase. They're not getting more money. They're getting the same amount. They're paying more because they're paying their own gas. So it affects that. It affects all the independent drivers. It affects people who want to go to work. There's so many areas it affects that it's just it's going to take a long time, I think, to really normalize. And I'm afraid that if things don't normalize quickly, we're going to see another like readjustment, like crash or whatever you want to call it, because things are so out of whack right now. I don't think they can naturally get back into kilter without some real thoughtful governance. So
yeah, well, I mean, I don't know when we're ever going to get back to the kind of the pre-pandemic normal we had before with a lot of stuff. The shortages and the unavailability of things continues to plague us, and it doesn't look like there's any fix on the near-term horizon for this. So when we can go to a store and actually see something on a regular basis, knowing that it's going to be there, and not having to say, "Oh my gosh, it's out of stock" or whatever. It's I don't know what kind of a world we're living in right now as a result of all this. But it's a pretty big shock to the system to not be able to see the shelves fully stocked all the time. And in this labor issue, I mean, the airlines, all these companies have been struggling to fill spots. I mean, I think I went over to Wendy's yesterday to use a 2-for-1 offer on a Frosty on a coupon, and I swear, I'm like, how long am I going to have to wait in line? It wasn't even a long line.
It's Wendy's. Wendy's is notorious for lines.
Yeah, I was third in line, and it took forever to get served.
I tell you, let me tell you.
And then just to get 2 stinking Frosties, it still took forever. And I'm like, I blame this on a labor problem. I don't think they just don't have enough staff to handle the orders. Somebody take the order, and then somebody actually fill the order. It was horrible.
Let me clarify that, though, Don. Before the pandemic, in the good old days of 2018, Sparkplug Bats and I went to a Wendy's by Goddard. It was a long wait there, and that was before the labor shortage and all that. So the problem is Wendy's, frankly. It's not the labor shortage. It's just lazy employees at Wendy's, But by the way, here is something. I was over at the Wawa's, because it's the cheapest place to get gas right now without having to wait in long lines like at Costco's. Inside, I went into the store, right? And they say they have some products may be temporarily unavailable, and that is they've got, and I'm seeing more and more of those signs, whether it be at Wawa's, over at Giant, Safeway, Harris Teeter's, all these places. I'm seeing signs like that in various points, and it's like I feel like Joe Biden did all this. It's like this is all. I mean, what's funny is how the media is still so kind of quiet on this. Do you remember during? You remember this, Don? 1991, ABC News had the misery index. They were flashing on the screen every day. All the people that were out of work. It's kind of like during George W. Bush's term. Every day we were getting a daily body count, right? And then Obama becomes president. Where are those body counts? But they just miraculously people stop dying out, in the Middle East and so on. It's like it's these double standards, the left has. Where is the misery index, ABC News? Where is your special on the woman collecting cans to pay for her food or gas? 60 Minutes did something in the late 90s about how some woman had to collect cans and eat cat food so she could afford her medication. Where are these stories today about people having to collect cans and walk miles and miles because they can't afford the gas to put in their car? We're not seeing any of that stuff,
I do think the media is even now getting somewhat exhausted with trying to defend and get on the stay on the Biden bandwagon. That they just they make so many mistakes, and then And then Jill Biden, who's supposed to be kind of the
Oh
steady North,
yes.
you know, she blew it the other day. I mean, look, the the Democrats are already having trouble with Hispanic vote or the Latinx vote as
That's
we're
what she was. She was at a Latinx event, and then she called them Latinos. Also, it's like,
right.
excuse me, Jill, you're not using the right term, Latinx.
And
That's the
she stumbled over bodega and called it bogadas, you know. But comparing them to tacos, I mean, the
America's doctor.
backlash was swift, and that was the kind of mistake I didn't expect to see from Joe Biden. But when the Democrats are already in trouble with a Hispanic vote, they've lost a lot of support there. This is not helping them at all. I mean,
Do you remember when George W. Bush would mispronounce he would pronounce nuclear funny, and they all jumped on. They called him ignorant and all that. Where are the cause of ignorant Jill for not being able to say bodega? You know.
Yeah, I mean, what did Bush say? Nuclear or something like that? Nuclear?
Yeah, nuclear or nuclear. Yeah. Or cafefe. You know. Come on. You know. It's like, look at the Bidens. Joe Biden is what the media lied about Dan Quayle, frankly. Potato. He wished he could speak Latin, paid attention in Latin class. We went to Latin America. It's a joke, frankly. It's kind of like when Steve Ducey spoke when he was the feature reporter at NBC4 in DC. He was the commencement speaker for the class of '87, and I was there to take pictures for the yearbook, right? And he made a funny joke about how he goes, I learned that I didn't need to take calculus in high school because the bank only charged me $5 if I bounced a check. I didn't. And then he goes, in all seriousness, my wife and I were trying to calculate the radius of the beltway on our way over here while we're sitting in traffic. But the point is, these people, and Steve Ducey got mocked by the administration of Blair about that. Oh my God, he said math isn't important. He was joking, you morons. But it's that's the problem. They've got all these lefties with double standards. Oh, here we go. Yeah, he went there too.
I know, but his next comment's even funnier.
Yes. And something, it's like and that's another thing. That's real quick. I know we're actually already in extra innings, but funny. That's how when you start the conversation with baseball, it takes us into extra innings. But here's the thing. I'll tell you this. Have you noticed a lot of governments have been falling around the world? The Italian government fell. I know that's really not a new thing, but it fell. Boris is gone in the empire. He's still a member of the Conservative Party, but he's just not the PM anymore.
He's staying until they get a new one. They have to elect a new party leader. This is going to probably take about 2 months before he leaves. But yeah, so I think some people there are others that are worried that he will do something in the meantime and kind of screw things up even more so. But we'll see.
And then you had, it's like, and then you see Sri Lanka. It's a mess there. I haven't seen something like that since the Marcos were run out of the Philippines.
And the Marcoses are back.
Are they back?
Yeah.
I did not
Wasn't
realize
his son that was running for office?
He won. He's the president.
He did win.
He did win.
No.
Huh. Now we just need Corey Aquino's kid to run.
There are, in politics, names can be legendary, even if they've gotten a black mark sometimes.
Yeah.
Voters can be very funny about that stuff, and they're very loyal to the name. And he managed to convince them that he was going to be the right answer. So, hey.
And here's the thing, I think, Ferdinand Marcos, he did, but I'll tell you this. He's the hero of the Bataan Death March. He survived that. Ferdinand Marcos was an anti-communist. He kept the communists at bay in the Philippines, frankly. We had our air base there in the Philippines. And when Corey Aquino kicked us out, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we kind of transitioned and handed the base over to them. I mean, Corey Aquino was a liberal. Let's face it. She was a liberal, and she was not. Like she got power. She was elected, and the Marcoses and Mrs. Marcos with all of her shoes made it to Hawaii. And I'll tell you this. Ferdinand Marcos. He did stand up to the communists. And he did keep the Philippines from flipping to the red box, so to speak. And I think that's not a small accomplishment. Oh, Bonnie's watching us.
I mean, I do think that you just wind up with, we know that foreign, leaders, there's going to be a lot of corruption, things like that. It's almost a given. To what degree that is in any country, that'll vary a little bit. But yeah, I mean, was Marcos, corrupted? Yeah, sure he was, but he was still probably better than a lot of the alternatives. I mean, in the land, being a strong ally of the U.S., we had Subic Bay and things like that. That was good for us. We had strategic alliances.
Wasn't Eric Estrada's brother the prime minister at one point also of the Philippines?
They've had so many different people in there now. I don't even. I've lost track of them all.
Yeah. But we're at final thoughts, everyone. Let's start with you, Don. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Oh, before that, I do want to wish our friend. We weren't here last week because we were all celebrating the Josephine Wang's soon-to-be 80th birthday. Josephine's been a stalwart.
Yeah, it popped up on Facebook already, so I think it's happened, right?
No, I think her birthday is on the 18th.
I think it came up the other day for some reason. When it came up, I thought it was going to be longer, but I don't know.
Because she told me today, but yeah.
But she could have entered it. You can enter in any date on Facebook, and that becomes the thing.
That is true. There's no verification. But yeah, happy birthday, Josephine. We had a great event at Madras Palace. I would have preferred we went to a nice Italian place like Cheesecake Factory or Bertucci's or any place that has pizza. But anyways, Josephine, it was her birthday.
Dwight, I mean, as a vegetarian Indian, how can it be any better for you?
It was okay. I mean,
look, I will say I was surprised at actually that the food was actually, for a vegetarian place, which I'm not a big fan of the vegetarian stuff, it was actually pretty tasty.
The food was really good. I'm going to tell you, that is the closest thing to home food. That place.
And that place was popular. It was pretty packed too.
I know. So, it's like when we got there, I'm like, wow, COVID's really done a number. Then next thing you know, we got the whole room is packed with people.
It's like Chinese restaurants and like that. So if you see a lot of Chinese in there, you figure, okay, it's got to be good. I think we saw plenty of Indians in there, didn't we?
Yeah. And they all clapped for Josephine when we sang her happy birthday.
That's true. Yeah, I know.
But I think it's a real nice family environment. I don't know if you noticed the table.
Yeah, look, and they were very helpful. They were very helpful. They helped you cut the cake or whatever, brought out the knife.
Yeah.
Good people.
And the people at the table ahead of us, they brought some of their own food from home and they were eating for the kids, I thought that was funny.
That table behind us, kind of?
Yeah. Yeah.
With the little kids? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, wow, this is a great place. You can bring your own food here and eat here. But anyways, back to final thoughts,
All right. Okay, back to final thoughts. Elon Musk and Twitter. I didn't think that Elon was actually going to buy Twitter to begin with. I'd said that publicly in different venues before. I mean, the Twitter lawsuit, maybe Twitter actually forces him to do this thing. I just find that, I mean, Musk's price wasn't really, $54.20 wasn't based on anything that he thought the value of Twitter was worth $54.20 a share. He was just taking a whole shot at the whole marijuana thing of $4.20. So, he picked that number out of the air. I don't know. I mean, the idea that Elon Musk owns Twitter, I always thought would have been an odd thing, but Elon Musk is I give the guy credit for, I don't think we would have EVs without Musk going that way and taking advantage of federal tax credits, using the federal system to get solar panels, do all these things. The guy's a smart guy. I'm not sure how this battle is going to turn out. He'll owe them at least probably $1 billion for the breakup fee. But I think Twitter realizes that they don't really have that much of a business model, and since he made the offer, they've kind of been frozen. So the business is probably worse off as a result of the offer. So I don't know if that's going to really go anywhere. But Elon Musk is Elon Musk. He'll continue to do these things, whether or not he owns Twitter or not. Also, Trump apparently, I guess, he said that it's not a matter of, it's more a matter of, when he'll announce his 2024 run rather than if he'll announce a run for 2024. My preference, as always, is Donald Trump, stay to the sidelines, help the candidates, do your endorsements, help raise the money for them, but don't run for president, because you're such the lightning rod. You want to help the Democrats, you run for president, because then they'll try to do a rerun of 2020 and the focus will all be on you. That's what the January 6th hearings are all about, is to vilify and make Trump the issue, trying to sway voters, to the Democrat side from the Republican side. But just like abortion, I mean, abortion is not an issue that's going to sway many voters. The January 6th Commission stuff is not going to sway many voters. But hatred for Donald Trump could sway voters. So
and I think this, Don, abortion, all that stuff is like a luxury issue for people. When you're paying $4 plus for gas, $5-6 a pound for chicken, that's it's a luxury issue,
Right. No, it's the economy. It's the pocketbook. If there
what
was
did Bill Clinton say? It's the economy.
If there was an election that had to focus on pocketbook issues in the economy, this is the one. Because when you're staring down at the barrel of inflation at 40-year highs, and interest rates going up, and all of these kinds of things, and the gas prices where they are, it's unavoidable. This affects virtually everybody in America, and it definitely affects the main people who vote and the bread and butter people. I mean, if the Democrat Party is all about, kind of the blue collar people, these are the Walmart people and whatever. These people are seeing it. You can go to any store in the country and you will see the price has gone up for just about everything.
Yeah, I mean, just ask a soccer mom, what's the price of a juice box these days, snacks for for the soccer team, more and more expensive.
I'm going to have discipline. I swear that my snacking is going to be greatly reduced, because the stuff I like, I'm like, whoa, okay, that's up significantly. Even if Costco puts on sale, it's cheaper, but it's like, I don't want to be paying those prices anymore. It's better for my health anyway if I don't eat some of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But the prices are going to force me to do things, and I've lost most of my income anyway, so it's like I can't afford to do that stuff to begin with.
And something, Don, a lot of this stuff, it's the new Biden diet. It's his war on obesity. You all eat too much. You all drink too much. It's not going to make everything too expensive for you to do any of that stuff. I had to put up my old 2011 picture and put a current picture. This is me in 2019. This is me today.
The administration will be handing out seeds to grow your own vegetables, right?
Funny you should mention that. I've got a neighbor in Florida who basically was telling, I mean, we're in a gated community, so it's not like, but he goes, there's people that are not in gated communities where people are actually having, at the nighttime, people coming in and stealing oranges off his orange tree, off of orange trees and stuff like that. I mean, it's only food. I mean, I don't, but I wonder if that's actually, if that's going to become more and more prevalent as prices keep going up and up and up. People taking, stealing food from people's gardens and stuff like that.
Look, if you don't have a more modern car, if you have a car where you can easily open your fuel door to your gas, and you don't have a locking gas cap, watch out. If you live in some neighborhoods, expect siphoning to occur. I mean, we've already seen, just this has been going on for a long time, but we've seen more and more thefts of catalytic converters, right? People are doing lots of stuff. I mean, just bold things to go, whatever they can do to either to steal stuff to make money and whatever, leaving other stealing tires off of cars in apartment parking lots. It's like, this is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, Honda Accords, I mean, they've always had the issue of people stealing their airbags. Hondas and Jaguars were the two that had that problem with airbags being stolen, resold on the black market and stuff like that.
Well, people, in an economy like this, people will get more desperate. So watch out.
Yeah. And it's like, buckle up, everyone. Buckle up. That's all I have to say. But any other thoughts, Don?
No, pass it on to Jess.
Yeah, final thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't have too many final thoughts other than the fact that I think, this, as far as you mentioned about the pain and the misery index, I don't know if we have something similar to that, but, I think people are generally, pretty fed up with just how things are in general, meaning that not just the cost of things, but also just the service. And then, just, it seems like the quality of life has just really gone down. So I don't know. It's really unfortunate that, again, the worker shortage, started because of COVID, but then it hasn't recovered because, both because of the assistance that the workers were getting, so they didn't have to work, plus now, the cost for even getting to work. So there are so many aspects for that I just think it's, I don't know. It's hard to be hopeful because I don't see any light on the horizon yet, but I want to be hopeful that at some point, it'll get to a pain threshold where people in Congress and people, in the government will actually realize that this is not just affecting, people outside their, personal domain, but affecting them too. Because the last thing I want to see is kind of a breakdown where, things just grind to a halt. And again, I'm no great historian, so I don't know all what happened for the Great Depression, but my understanding is that a lot of it was because it's like the gears of industry just stopped working. It wasn't like they didn't have workers. It's like you didn't have work. It wasn't like you didn't have money, but just the whole system just collapsed. And again, I don't know enough to know what the signs would be for that to happen again. I just see that there's so many imbalances right now in the, in our economy, in the workforce, in the housing. It seems untenable. So I'm not sure how it's going to correct. I'm hoping it'll correct gracefully, but that's kind of my concern. So I don't know. It's not really a final thought in terms of like, I don't have a resolution for it. That's my concern. And I hope that that's something that, and I think that's what voters, I think, will be voting with too, is that, if somebody has a solution to this, whether it's something from a Republican or even a Democrat that, has a compelling message, I think they're going to have to address this. There's no way to just sugarcoat around it. So that's my thoughts.
My turn, I guess. I've got some great final thoughts. A couple of things. One, the Orioles are up 1-0 in the bottom of the third. I know, so there we go. Just 6 more innings to go and 11 straight. Also, I want to share with everyone. This month I hit the big 5-0, and here is a great little website about everything that happened in 1972 called The Spirit of 72. Nixon Agnew swept into victory. Landsat 1 launched, American Pie was the #1 song. And here's something interesting. Hewlett Packard rolled out the HP 35, the first scientific calculator. And one of my all-time favorite shows, All in the Family, was the #1 show in America. But
hey, Dwight, the Orioles up 2-0 in the fourth.
Oh, that's even better. That's even better. And I looked a few minutes ago, and it was 1-0. Maybe it's going to be an Orioles miracle, And it's yes, it is truly a magical experience, And I think it's wonderful, Also, I know things are bad, but remember, things will get better. things will get better. I know it's hard to be positive and upbeat when you see the price of gas well over $4.50. You go to the supermarket and a gallon of milk is around $5, $6, depending on where you're going. And you go down the cookie aisle and you're paying $5 for a pack of cookies that you'd pay $1.88 for a couple years ago. A lot of this stuff is, and I think that's one thing about Democrats. They are out of touch. They don't seem to feel the pain. They're living in their little bubble communities, away from the squeegee guys that are killing innocent people, like in Baltimore City that just happened. And it is time, for people, everyone just vote Republican for a change. Give the Republicans a chance. Not to be cynical, but you really think this can get any worse under a Republican leadership? I mean, we've had some of the most prosperous times under Republican presidents and Republican Congresses over the years. Remember Tuesday in Maryland is election day, everyone. So if you want your vote to count, vote for Kelly Schultz for governor. If you want to throw away your vote, go vote for Dan Cox. So, vote for Kelly Schultz and progress in winning in November. Otherwise, like a plain exit vote, you can vote for the other guy. So,
vote for the guy the Democrats want to win, right?
Exactly. Remember, the Democrats, are back. They're betting on Dan Cox, and just in case you guys have forgotten, Larry Hogan, he's not perfect, but let me tell you something. Remember, you used to pay a $2 fee for your Easy Pass? Governor Hogan got rid of that. In the last 8 years, we have not seen a single tax increase, toll rate hike, or have we seen fees go up on stuff. If you want to see the bad old days of Martin O'Malley with the rain tax, the gas tax tied to inflation, and they're going to raise the gas tax. Minute the price of gas drops to around below $3, they're going to go, oh, Marylanders are used to paying $4 or $5 for gas anyway, so let's just raise the gas tax so it takes the price of gas around $4 again. And that is the mentality of the Maryland Democrat. And they'll start taxing, they'll tax and spend. I will be in Florida by then, so I'll be escaping all of this stuff. But Maryland is my home state, and frankly, Maryland can do better than another Democrat governor, frankly. So, everyone, really important. Tuesday, go out, vote for Kelly Schultz, vote for Jim Shalek for Attorney General, vote for Barry Glassman for Comptroller, vote for me for County Council at Large and Central Committee at Large. You get to vote for me twice. And vote for Jeff Thornton for Howard County Central Committee on Tuesday. Jeff, you got to carve out time to go out and vote on Tuesday. I'll be in Florida, but I'll be in Florida, but I'll be bugging you every hour.
Okay. Yes, of course.
So, and so anyways, everyone, good night. And I do want to leave with one closing video I just found, which we'll just watch a little bit of it together. Truly great. See, the Nats don't even have stuff like this.
Something magic happens every time you go. You make the magic happen. The magic of Orioles baseball. When the game is close and the Oaks are hot.
See, the Nats have nothing on this.
Wow.
I know, it's great. I mean, it's
definitely time to end the show.
Yes, it is. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
See everyone. Oh, next week will be a waterfront show. I'll be doing the show from the beaches of Melbourne, Florida.
Nice.
Fun. So tune in next week.